Hi, and welcome everyone to my second episode of Hobo Prepper. Now, my street name, it used to be Chucky, but as the years went along, my street name changed to Friar Tuck. So that's what I'm going to be going by on this channel moving forward. And today I'm going to talk about the five must-haves for a prepper. Now, there is a little bit of a caveat to this. If you're in the inner city, so if you're a concrete jungle dweller or an urban jungle dweller, then this will pertain to you. If you live out of the city, you already have your land, you already have your place carved out. This may not be the right video for you. This is for all those city dwellers that may be stuck in all of this. So the first thing that you're going to need is a backpack. Now, if you're stuck in the inner city in the concrete jungle and you don't have a car, you're going to need a backpack. It's a must have. Don't worry if you have a car, some of this stuff will be relevant to you, but I will be making another video about car living. Depending on weather, location, and possible extra gear, the type of backpack that you get is extremely important. If you're in a rainy area, you need to have something that is waterproof. So you can go for the typical military backpacks, with the metal bars, but those can sometimes be really expensive. You have to take additional measures to weatherize your gear, and even just being able to add things to it, you're going to need more things. So I was not able to find the last backpack that I had, and it was probably the best backpack I ever had. However, I did find something that was comparable. It's almost an exact match, except for mine was a Coleman. The link is in the description, and if you want to check it out for yourself, go for it. Because your backpack is so important. It took me a while of being housed up before I gave it away to someone else that was in need. It doesn't matter. You can go out with very little. If you don't have a good backpack, you're screwed. I think that if you do not have a car, your backpack is probably the one thing that will save your butt as far as being able to be mobile and to be able to be flexible. So be careful when loading your pack, though. It should be organized and compartmentalized. You have limited room and a limited amount of weight that you can carry. So, I mean, the backpack has its weight limit, plus you have your own personal weight limit. So, things that you will definitely need is you're gonna need a hygiene kit. Now, that's something that, like, I took a shaving kit bag. Somebody bought me a shaving kit for Christmas, and so I took that bag and I threw my toothbrush and my toothpaste and stuff like that. And you can go to the dollar store and get all the little casings that you need, and even though it's at the dollar store, it'll last you a while, and it is disposable. You know, um, and also, you're going to need a place for your electronics, that can be, so you don't want to just bring all of your electronics. You want to bring things that can be recharged, and you want to be able to bring the gear, the charging cables with it, if you need special cables, but you should definitely try and condense it down, and you also need to have a room for your clothes. You need to have room for your sleeping gear, because the thing is it's all about clean and dry, and keeping it in the backpack versus out, especially on a rainy day, is important. So I always put my sleeping bag and my pillow uh, in the bottom of the backpack, because I was a little spoiled as the years went along, because I had a 30-degree sleeping bag, I had a mummy bag, and I even had a personal pillow that I've carried with me. I've had this one pillow for over 10 years. It was originally given to me by my mom. It was the last thing that I ever got from her. And I've slept out on the streets with it many times. And before that, I had a different pillow. But it made everything a little bit lighter. And, it gave me a chair when I wanted to sit. But, as you go along, you'll be able to have certain comforts. Things that you take for granted now will be something that you look forward to as something that you really cherish and you miss. Kind of like those war movies where you hear them talking about, when they get back home they can't wait to have a cheeseburger, because they haven't had a cheeseburger in so long they've almost forgot what it tastes like. So the second thing that you're going to need is mesh or cotton clothing. And this is also in the description as well, but this may not seem like a big deal, but when it comes to hygiene and not being able to take a shower for days, I will tell you the longest I ever went without a shower was 45 days. And I'm telling you, without having the mesh for my undergarments and then like a cotton shirt on the top, uh, I would have come away with a lot of skin issues for what was going on with me during that period of time. So mesh clothing will kill bacteria because it's basically plastic. I like to have thick cotton shirts, to keep me warm on cool and cold days. And the thing is my skin kind of prefers it. So I'm a little bit of a snob when it comes to what I wear as far as clothing. I want something to be real cotton. I don't like the artificial stuff, with the exception of like my mesh pants and my mesh shorts that I wear, just so that I can keep the bacteria from there from causing other issues later on. And so my favorite shirts though. I love my Carhartts, and you'll see me in my Carhartts. They're tattered and tangled and mangled, but man, those things last forever. I mean, I've never had a shirt that good. And my favorite part about them is that they have a shirt pocket. As you see, I don't have a shirt pocket here. I pretty much require, if you and I always tell people that buy me gifts, if you're gonna buy me a gift, you buy me something with the shirt pocket, because I need a place. I need a pocket to put my smokes. I like to have them right there. That way, I know what's going on with them, because if they get in your pockets, it really sucks. And sometimes they get smashed, especially if you're wearing tight clothing. So the third thing that you're going to need, and now I know that this may not seem like a big deal, and this may seem completely off the wall, but let me explain this to you. You're going to want a tarp. Now, I bet you think I'm crazy, but being in Florida during rainy season, a tarp was the best thing that I had. Now, when you get a tarp, you want to sleep in the middle of it. So what you're going to do is you're going to roll up right in the middle of it, and then you're going to tuck the edges, and you're going to take the bottom and you're going to tuck the top underneath it. And when you do that, that will kind of keep and seal you in. And if you're sitting at a slope, then what will happen is the water will drain down the slope, and so you're sleeping at a little bit of an angle, so one, that you don't roll down the hill, but two, so that you can stay dry. And anything that does get through that first little fold that you do, is going to automatically drain down the hill. So if it's gonna be rainy season and you're gonna be having a tarp, make sure that you sleep on a slope if you want to keep dry. But for $5 or $10 is probably the one of the best investments you could ever make, especially if you're trying to conserve space in your pack, because you could put it on the outside or on the inside, because it really doesn't matter. You just got to be careful with how you fold it. Okay, so the number four is something that you're not going to need to spend money on. It's going to take time to develop a companion. So, should you be homeless because of an SHTF situation, having a companion is important. Maybe you want to have an animal. If you have a dog, people will take pity on the dog and feed it before they feed you. Now you'll get a little bit of the scraps, but the animal usually gets fed because the people feel sorry for the animal, not for you. And one, it's a way to make sure that your animal stays fed, and two, it makes sure that on a bad day when you're not able to rummage up money and you have to sit out there and beg, otherwise there is no food for you. It will be a way so that you can at least get something. But people are really, really picky when they go and they give food to your dog. They will actually feed it to your dog and make him watch him eat it. So it's not like you can actually take it from him. Very rarely will people say, "Here, split this with your dog." And those are the people that are nice. I never owned an animal being out there. Um, but an animal can be more than just a guard. It can also be used in a way to ensure that you can at least eat, like I said. So again, if you don't want to have an animal out there, having a road dog is the next best thing. Which is what I may refer to you guys as some from time to time. It's actually a term of endearment. It's something. It's like back in the '90s, everybody was homeboys. Well, in the street community, you're called a road dog. And so if I call you my road dog, it's to say you're my friend. You're that one guy that I can sit back and I can depend on. Because there are going to be other hobos that are going to try and raid you, and they're going to, whether they're going for drugs or whether they want money or whether they're just jerks, and doing something, and sometimes you may even have to deal with gangs. And regardless, you're gonna want somebody there because, if you have a solo guy or two guys come up, it's gonna deter them, and that's usually the way that it'll turn up. Is it's usually teams of two. If they have a third or a fourth guy, then you might be outnumbered, but you still have a chance if you've got a good road dog. So your road dog, the guy that or gal or however you do, uh, part of you are there to keep each other safe. It is a mutually beneficial thing. When you guys may go separately, your own ways during the day, because you make your money your way, they make their money their way. It's not to be a judge, it's more about safety, because then when you meet up at night, you sit around the camp, you might have a beer, you might do something like that, and then you go to bed, and now you know that you have a second person there. That way it deters other people. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a friend. It just has to be somebody that you can have a mutually beneficial common interest agreement with, which we will talk about a little bit later as far as contracting and agreements. Because if you it's important, especially if you're going to be in an SHTF situation and you're going to be out there, and you're not out there for the other crazy stuff. One last thing I will say on this subject, though, is that, having more people can sometimes be better, but you've got to be very careful in who you associate with. To tell you a quick story, I was in San Antonio and I was sleeping under a bridge, and there was this family of like three or four people, and they said, "Hey, you can come sleep next to us, stay safe, so on and so forth." But, um, on the same sense, they were, um, the only word I could think of was crazy Christians. Not just your typical Christians, but your crazy Christians. And because the other crazy Christians came around looking for people to pick up and take home off the streets, um, I ended up, getting picked up, and they're like, "Hey, we'll give you a place to sleep for the night. We'll give you a meal." And I'm like, "Well, I'm sleeping on a gravel offshoot here, and it's it's better than what I had." And so I said, "Sure, why not?" And then they found my Book of Mormon, because at the time I was Mormon. And they took that and they threw that in the trash. And I'm like, "Man, you have no right to do that." "Well, you can't stay here unless you do that." It's like, "Okay, whatever." Um, in order to sleep on that gravel bed that I was sleeping on, I kind of went and got myself a little sauce just to make it a little bit easier to sleep. Because I mean, sleeping on gravel, especially like they're little, like that big. They're not really, they're small little rocks, like about that big, that you're sleeping on, and you got a sleeping bag between you and those rocks, and you got to figure out a way to sleep good that night. But that's the only place you can sleep. That's the only place you can sleep. And having this, I'm like, "Okay, fine. I'm a little sauce. I'll go to sleep. I'll have breakfast. I'll leave in the morning, because they say I'm not stuck here. I'm not obligated for anything." And so the next morning I wake up. It turns out that this is some holy roller cult. This is like, the stuff you hear about, like with David Koresh and all that stuff. I had actually gotten picked up by one of those groups. And so this is the important of, like, be careful of who you associate with, one, but be careful of who you go with too. Even if something sounds like it may be good, you're a homeless, and you don't have a roof over your head, and so people, see you as down and desperate and easy to take advantage of. It's worse than being a fat girl. And, but I woke up there doing the praying. You had to do the holy rolling thing, and if you didn't, after like so many days of staying there, from what I was being told, they would start beating you until you started, feel in the spirit. And they had girls and they had boys, but if a boy looked at a girl or a guy looked at yeah, if they looked at each other, you would be smacked, or even worse, you would be put into confinement and you'd be punished just for dealing with that. That was the type of place that this was, and I'm like, I'm eating breakfast. I'm gone. They promised me a bed and breakfast. I lost my Book of Mormon. I don't really care about it that much, and so I uh, I ended up grabbing my bag, grabbing my stuff. I said, "You said I didn't have to stay here. I'm leaving. I've just got, I just want my backpack and I want to be gone." And they're like, "Okay." So I changed out of their little hospital gowns that they gave you and changed into my clothes, got dressed. And there was this girl, she'd already gotten dressed too, but she was a little bit further along in the program. So when they first start you, they're going to strip you of everything that you own, and then they're going to and then they're going to slowly give it back to you as you complete what it is that they want you to complete. It is pretty scary out there again, and having to deal with that experience was something else. And um, so as I'm walking out, there is this girl who is like, she sees me and she's like, "This is my only chance to leave," and so she comes running after me. I ended up taking her down to a bus station and making sure that she got home to her family. But she witnessed something and she was on the run from people that wanted to kill her, which is another reason why you'll see people on the streets. They're not just there for drugs, they're there because they witnessed something and they're hiding, or they have had something happen to them where they were targeted. And I have actually met quite a few people, legitimately, and I've checked into their story, legitimately, that were caught out in there because of being either politically or economically assassinated. Okay, so you guys are probably wondering, okay, what crazy thing is he coming up with next? Okay, number five is your money making gear. Now, this may seem a little weird, but you're going to be outside, and you've got to live outside, but that doesn't mean you have to be broke. And here's the other thing is working and being productive and making money keeps you sane, especially living in that situation. So doing something to keep productive and having money making gear is important. So I would sometimes make better money being homeless, making money legitimately. I didn't have to go beg or steal or scam. I made money legitimately, and I made better money sometimes being homeless than I ever did working at a job. And again, it was legit. So if you don't have money left over for your money making gear, don't worry. There are other ways to make money without panhandling, etc. So, for example, when I was this was the same time when I ran into those crazy Christians, and I was going up into an upscale neighborhood, and I was going and I was knocking on doors, and I'd knock on the door and I would say, "Look, I am homeless, but I'm trying to work my way out. I can't get a job unless I have a place, and I can't have a place unless I have a job. So I at least need to be able to have some sort of roof over my head, and I'm trying to make money for that. Do you have any work that I can do?" If you're honest and explain to them, like, "Look, this is where I'm at. This is why I'm here," uh, people will be open. I had a guy. He gave me. I made like 400 or 500 bucks off him, and this is in like 2002, 2003, 2004 time frame. I mean, this is literally back when money was still somewhat real, uh, for those of you that are under 30. Uh, so, making that much money, I made good money. The thing was, is I got really sick. I got a respiratory infection, and then I couldn't go back and complete the job, and uh, I almost died that winter. So winter is really, really scary for you if you're outside because of the possible respiratory issues that you will face. So, if you don't have any equipment, if you don't have any money left over, if you're just going out completely broke, there are ways to make money. If you're on the West Coast, you can use Craigslist. There's other bulletin forms that you can use. I found one of the better places that I ever worked. I really liked working for the guy, but he didn't have consistent work, and I really wasn't in a place where I could be consistent and work for him because I was trying to do something else. And he had he did shrubs, so like all those movie sets and the props and stuff like that. Well, those are real plants, and so they need them. And so this guy would go out and find all these prime specimens for plants that can be used in props, and then he would bring them back, and then we would have to, package them up and put them in the back of a truck to be driven down to Hollyweird. And so, I mean, but once or twice, once a week, or one a couple of times a month, he would give you a call. You'd make about 150 bucks. But the thing is something like that is a start. And if you keep building a network, and if you have the drive, and you don't have the health issues that I have, you will have the ability to be productive and keep yourself working. And even if you can't afford your rent, at least you can afford to have some of your basics, and you can still live in a dignified way even if you are homeless, because it's all about your money making gear. But like this last time here that I went homeless, I went up to Denver last summer when I closed down my business, and it made me really rethink some things. Because Skid Row is moving from LA, and it's moving its way eastward. It's made its way all the way up to Denver. I've seen it in person, and I've been in Skid Row before. So this time, when I had to close down my business due to the pandemic, I took my last $700, so I had to pay all my bills, and I had $700 left over in profit after closing everything down, because I had less than a 2 week notice to close everything down. Because of some shenanigans that happened because of government policy. And so I took my last $700. I bought a camera and a couple of months worth of subscription to like the Adobe suite, because that was what everybody was using. And so I needed to at least get familiar with the industry standards so that I could figure it out. Now I have since gone to the free software with DaVinci Resolve, and DaVinci Resolve is great. Um, but again, I did what I did to start with my with what I had, because here's the thing: a lot of times you can always take your last check. Even when I knew that I was going to have just a little bit of time left, and I'm like, okay, I'm done with this. I'm ready to move on. I mean, I've lived in Virginia, Florida, all up and down the West Coast, down south in the and in the Midwest. I've been everywhere. The only place I haven't been is the upper Northeast, and that's just because I'm about as scared of it as I am scared of Skid Row and LA. And you should be scared of Skid Row and LA as well. It is something that you should be feared, and it is a sign. If you're looking for a sign, that's your sign right there, is Skid Row. And you don't want to see things turn into that, but that's probably when all of society breaks down. That's probably what's going to end up happening. And whether you have the time now to go get this gear. I mean, quite frankly, the thing that's going to cost you the most is your getting your business, the stuff that you're going to use to uh, to get yourself started. Your making money gear, and that's where you're going to spend it at. But what skills do you have? What is it that you offer? If there is very little communication, you don't have the ability to do hygiene, but yet you still have the ability to be productive. What things can you do? What way can you work yourself out? If you have a car, things are going to be a little bit different, and your hygiene and your opportunities are gonna increase just by having a vehicle, even at the price of gas being $5 a gallon. But with not having a car, you got to do what you got to do. You got to make sure that before you even go out, you should have all of this stuff together. At the bare minimum, you need to have your clothes, your sleeping gear, and your backpack, and your hygiene kit. And that should be what you go out with. You find your road dog. And if you don't have any money left over for money making gear, well, then that's fine. Um, Go knock doors. Hey, I, I can't get a place without a job. I can't get a job without a place. Can you give me some work? It's not that hard. And the thing is you just got to set your ego and your pride down, because at this point in time, if you're in this situation, if you haven't grasped yourself around being a 1099 and a self-employed, maybe you should. Okay, guys, I'm going to end this before I rant on forever, because I had a script, but I went off script. If you like this, please like, subscribe, share. I'd love to hear what you guys think in the comments. Any products that I talk about, they'll always be down in the description. You could check them out for yourself if you want to buy them. I do get a commission off it. It is an affiliate link, so it helps me, helps the channel, and I say thank you in advance. Until next time, thank you for joining me, and I will see you in the next video.